As part of our series on the rise of the global south, we turn to Turkey, a country that has evolved from its role as a reliable Western ally to be more of an independent global actor. Max, when did Turkish leaders begin to see themselves more independently as they look to their foreign policy?
Well, I think there's a few moments. I think the end of the Cold War was a really significant turning point in the sense that even during the 1990s, without the threat of communism, without the threat of the Soviet Union, the ties that really bound Turkey to NATO and the West dissipated. But then you have Erdoğan coming onto the scene, the AKP party in the early 2000s, and begin to shift away from Ataturk's more secular approach of Turkish identity, then a bit more Middle East focused, a bit more focused on the Islamic world than on Europe.
And they also work closely with Russia. They work closely with China. How did they balance between the great powers?
So I think one of the things that Turkey has done a good job of, if your foreign policy pursuit is one of strategic autonomy, is Turkey has been able to establish a business-like relationship with Russia, even though they were on the cusp of military conflict in Syria and were on the opposite sides. With China, I think there's also an interest in having a business-like relationship with China at times. There's real economic conflict there where it's not always in Turkey's interest to have China in Turkey. For instance, the Belt and Road Initiative. Turkey does a lot of construction, having the Chinese do construction. There's some tension and conflict there. But wanting to sort of be at the table, be at as many tables as possible, whether that's at BRICS, whether that's the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, you see Turkey wanting to be at all tables.
Is there any Turkish sense of how the global order should work? And what would a Turkish-influenced global order look like?
Well, I think Turkey's vision of the global order is one that is quite transactional, one that is not values-based, especially as President Erdoğan is rolling back a lot of the democracy and human rights protections that have existed in Turkey. So one that where sovereignty is sacrosanct, where you don't pay attention to the internal workings of other countries.
What does that mean for the future of Turkey in an organization like NATO?
So I think it's always going to be fraught. I think it's going to be fraught as long as Turkey pursues a foreign policy of strategic autonomy, because the whole point of NATO is that you're not really going to be strategically autonomous. And if Turkey continues on its direction, I think the EU could in fact start to take more punitive steps towards Turkey that would lead to a real fracturing of the relationship.